talking about the nonsensical ravings of a lunatic mind.
It's alive! It's alive! It's alive! It's alive! It's alive!
Hello and welcome to It's Alive Alive podcast. This is a true crime, paranormal, interstellar podcast covering unbelievable stories that sound like they're ripped straight from the pages of a Hollywood script. I am your host, used to be the man of enemies. I've been fucking this up for fucking weeks now. For weeks. And I do this every week. I am your host, the outlaw, Dr. H.R. Smokenstein, THC. And with me, as always, is my very own Scream Queen, the perfect combination of beauty and brains, the bride of Smokenstein, the hard expert of guts and gore, the gorgeous, sexy Amy Rose. Hi. It annoys me that I even have to look at the screen to read that anymore, let alone fuck it up.
Year and a half.
And I still fuck it up again. I know I changed it slightly, took out one or two lines, but taking out lines should have helped me get through this.
How many times have you had to retake it in the last few weeks?
I didn't have to retake it today. I just said, fuck it. I fucked up. I'm moving on. Fuck you.
I thought you would stop even being honest.
No. I might as well just get on with it. Fuck it. So today we're going to be talking about the infamous Natural Born Killers, Mickey and Mallory Knox.
Yes. And we were going to leave it for Valentine's Day, but in the end it wasn't all that romantic. Really?
They seemed romantic when you think about them. It's very Bonnie and Clyde like. You kind of look at it and you're kind of thinking, you know, love until the end. Then you look at what they did.
Yeah.
And some of it's not fair. Some of the stuff that was put in the media romanticized them.
Oh, yeah.
Made them look like this, you know, this rebellious couple in love, fighting the law, fighting the establishment. When in actual fact, you look at it and they're responsible for children's deaths, they're responsible for teenage deaths, they're responsible for rapes, they're responsible for murder. It's not just, a
love story.
No, it's not like the Charles Starkweather story that we talk about on It's Alive Action.
Oh,
that by no means was a love story either.
No.
But in that sense, he seemed to be motivated along those lines. Or Bonnie and Clyde, where they were motivated by money to be with each other and still have a rebellious life. They were still outlaws at the end of the day, and they still killed. Well, I don't know if Bonnie and Clyde killed that many people.
Bonnie and Clyde.
That wasn't business.
Oh, yeah.
That you weren't in my way or shooting at me, so I had no choice, you know?
I get you. I don't think it was any in cold blood, was it?
Huh?
As in, was it all just necessity? There was nothing as in,
I can't remember, to be honest. I'll look a bit more into it before we do it to live action, because I assume they'll come up when we're talking about these two.
Probably.
And it's the thing about it, this came at... It seemed like all this kind of sort of stuff was... It sounded new in the 90s, but I mean, it was happening for years. Obviously, like I said, Bonnie and Clyde are... Depression era?
Yeah.
Starkweather and Fugate were 50s.
Okay, 50s, 60s, yeah,
I think.
Yeah.
And then you have Mickey and Mallory Knox, who were 90s, and the 90s seemed like it was this ultra violent fucking era where everything bad was happening, because you had
Columbine.
That's exactly what I was about to say. Columbine being like, it was the first school shooting. They've been shooting up schools for a while, but this is the first in your face.
Yeah.
We're going to make a big deal out of it.
Not sensationalized. It should have been, as in but
funny enough, they were wearing serial killer memorabilia at that thing, and one of the things they were wearing was an NBK, Natural Born Killers hat. So you can guarantee Mickey and Mallory Knox were big influences on you. I think these two give a shit. These fellas, they live for death. Mickey and Mallory, they see that as a badge of honor. We can see that as
I wasn't saying that they got the blame as in a bad way for them, but it's in they
not for them. And I mean, it was a time when media especially went overboard. So I know you say today, today's media is sensational.
Yeah.
Everything, the world is ending every day on us. You know, if you're to believe the media, and it's not good. I mean, you got the orange fellow over in fucking America with his Android fucking.
I was wondering where you're going with the orange fellow.
Overlord fucking telling him what to fucking do.
Yep.
And they're fucking shit up left, right, and fucking center. You have wars in Palestine and Israel. You got wars in Ukraine and Russia. You got tension all over the world. So, I mean, you feel that kind of media sensationalizing. Now it's very doomsday media sensationalization. But back in the 90s when the Mickey and Mallory Knox thing came, it was almost like the time of the anti-hero.
Oh,
and they sensationalized killers in an anti-hero style of way.
Mm-hmm.
And that led, I mean, like, and not always, but they sensationalized the shit out of all the crimes. I mean, we're looking at the Menendez brothers.
Yes.
Who it's kind of still looking like they might have a possibility of getting out of jail.
Exactly.
And if you look at their case now, outside of media spotlight, you could kind of see a grounds for not for them getting away with it, but for them not to get the sentence they got.
To understand what happened in
it was so muddied by media and by public opinion that, you know, if you're a judge in that position, it's like, well, no, I got to put down a hard sentence because the media are watching me.
Yeah.
And the same thing, you had OJ, and it's almost like the opposite effect of the media and the public are sensationalizing the shit out of this. And if I get this wrong, we're going to have a race riot. Full-blown race riot. That's what's going to happen. Remember what happened when we left the white guys off for beating up Rodney King.
Oh, yeah.
Rodney King that was beaten on the side of the road. No, from what I believe, Rodney King had a criminal background, had a criminal record, and that was their kind of excuse on the grounds of we were pulling over. The same thing they did with that George Floyd guy. It was like, George is almost identical except Floyd died and King didn't. And
it's still not a basis for kicking the
absolute that's their excuse is, you're a criminal, a dangerous criminal, and you're resisting arrest. But they didn't know that. The ones with Rodney King didn't realize there was a camera on him. The ones that did George Floyd, common fucking sense. There's always a camera on you. Big Brother's watching you 24 hours a day. That might not be Big Brother, the government. That could be one of us. We'll watch out for ourselves.
There is a camera somewhere.
But there is, Do you know how they say, like, you're never more than 6 foot away from a spider?
Well, now you're
I think that's pretty much the same thing with a camera now at this point.
I would have to assume that Truman syndrome is becoming more common, like, because...
Well, like the Truman Show, people believing that they're like in a reality TV show and it's all fixed around.
Well, not even like in a reality, but like that you're constantly being watched. Like, oh, there could be a camera. Like, do you know, the workman that was in here a few weeks ago, can I trust? Do you know, things like that.
You've seen the movie, but you've never read the book. And I mean, like, the book 1984 is it 82 or 84? I always mix that up. But it's always based. I mean, it is so close to what's on our way. It is scary.
I thought that only from watching.
Listening to their mornings, like a description, he gets up in the morning and there's a big giant flat screen on his wall that will turn on and it will give him information, tell him what to do. But the camera on the screen can watch him. And he can get his information from the TV screen. And usually it's get up in the morning, you have to do your mandatory exercise. And you do your mandatory exercise and prepare for work. And then you go to work and all this stuff. But there's always cameras and bugs listening to you. So you can never speak negatively about Big Brother. You can never speak negatively about the thing. That's what the thought police are. Yeah. If you're talking about something and you're thinking about it, well, then they're going to come in and get you Minority Report style and take you away for reprogramming, which is... You know, you're rather reprogrammed, or you're reprogrammed with education, or you're reprogrammed with a bullet. You make the decision.
It looked like they were kind of lobotomized a bit. I don't think that they were, but as in like it looked like that kind of when they're just sitting there. It was like very emotion void kind of when they meet each other again.
The idea is that whatever sort of
conditioning,
horrific reconditioning they're put through is enough to make them decide. Because in the book, it's very much I saw her. You know, it's like they get caught. And then you're on to the next chapter and it's like I saw her again at the cafe, you know, and we didn't talk, we didn't make any contact. It's all you kind of feel the separation between them, but it's almost like there's an intense fear now that they can't be near each other, like, you know.
Christ.
But that's sort of what it's getting like now. or where that's what Donald Trump would like it to be. That's definitely what Elon Musk would like it to be.
Do you think they're going to do their mandatory exercise in the morning? because I can't see Trump getting out of bed at half 7.
I'm not I won't fat shame anybody, but I feel like he deserves it with his big McDonald's ass.
I feel like looking at like the last few months, surely, I mean, like, is there like early fucking, not early, but is there like, it just feels like someone who's going into dementia or Alzheimer's looking at the shit that he's pulling and talking about. Like,
no, I told you it's just a case of last time he had to worry about getting in this time. Now he's in. He has nowhere else to go after this. You might as well do as much as you can now before you go get out of office. Yeah. So he's going to do as much damage as he can. If it works and people like it, then his Republican friends will come in and follow suit and keep getting voted in. So he's just taking all the risks that the rest of the politicians are afraid of their life to take, and being the most extreme. Did he
not propose looking into like a third term?
Yeah, but I don't know how that works. Anyway, like what I said, sensationalization was different back in the 90s. Sensationalization was more glitz and glamour, and how would I describe it? I mean, like, even Page 3 is a very 90s kind of style 90s. Of thing. Like, you know, in sensationalizing media, it was like, buy this paper and you get to see boobs on Page 3. You know? And that's what it was all about. It was all about getting eyes on your media. This is, again, post-internet.
Yeah.
So, like, media was almost like pop-ups in real life. And they needed these pop-ups and these clickbaity headlines to get you to buy their paper or watch their TV show or, you know, follow their news report or whatever it is. So that used to happen a lot. And I mean, we used to see it. I mean, morning television in the 90s was dominated by trashy talk shows.
Oh, yeah. Absolutely. Sally Jesse. I loved her, though.
Sally Jesse. There was Ricky Lake.
Jerry Springer was early morning or late night, whichever you looked at.
Yeah. And then they had the English equivalent. What's that fella's name? Jeremy Kyle. He's an evil bastard.
Yeah.
He's back on TV.
Not doing what he was doing, though, yeah?
No, they can't. They'd never let that show on again.
What's he?
I can't remember, but they'd never be allowed to do anything like Jeremy Kyle on TV again.
But he always came off like an arrogant little
he was an
fucker,
asshole.
Like, yeah.
And then you find out later he's got more problems than most of the people he brings
and
on the show.
And he's there, like, absolutely hypocritical.
Roasting them.
And he has just as many issues.
No, he's more of a 2000s problem. But the 90s, again, this is where this shit was born. I mean, Geraldo Rivera. I can never say that fucker's name. He's not the guy that sued the WB, is he?
Geraldo Rivera. Let me have a look. Yeah, United States versus no, sorry, I'm wrong.
He brought up the Ring Boy scandal, but he's not the guy. No, it was John Stasis that got slapped.
Vince sued Rivera
over the Ring Boy allegations.
Okay, I get you.
It's here, yeah. United States versus McMahon, criminal court case brought against Vince McMahon by. Oh no, this was about the steroid trial.
This is the late 1980s, early 1990s, the Ring Boy scandal. Ring announcer Mel Phillips had recruited teenage boys for the purposes of sexual exploitation.
Yeah, well, we've talked about that, and we'll talk about it again. I assume on Wrestling with Time at some point. But do you know why it is that it comes into my head is I am pretty sure that there's an interview between Vince McMahon and Geraldo, right? And it's one of the few times you see Vince get really, really, really shitty on TV. And then there was Vince McMahon. And if I'm right, this might have been about just before the steroid trial. And they had him on his show with a bunch of other wrestling pundits. So like Meltzer and some other guys. And Geraldo Rivera, there we go. And they started asking him rough questions there, and Vince didn't know how to fucking deal with it. And kind of was...
The referee that accused Vince of raping her appeared on the show as well. Rita Chatterton.
Rita Chatterton. And that's come up again lately.
That has. We see that in the dark side. No, we saw it.
Either way, again, even when you look at that steroid trial, that was 90s sensationalization at its max, like, you know, because even down to Vince coming in with the fucking neck brace on, which was seen as something you did. It was, again, a very TV trope kind of, courtroom drama. And that's what it was all about at the time, was courtroom drama, true crime. And people look at true crime now and they think it's like, why is everybody so obsessed with true crime these days? It's not that we're obsessed with it these days. It's easier to get.
It is easier. Yeah.
It's easier to consume because you've got podcasts like this that are going to give you all the gory details. You don't have to go looking for documentaries or, wait for a program to show up somewhere about it. If you fucking Google any one of these serial killers, there's articles, there's documentaries, there's books, they're all at your fingertips now. So that's why it seems like it's more popular now. But in the 90s, there was a hunger for this stuff, especially celebrity style.
That's what I was just about to say, though. I think the closest that we've seen to it in the last 10, 20 years is probably Johnny Depp and Amber Heard. Because that was huge, was it not? I know that's not TV? Crime. I think that was on TV. They
put that in Court TV, like.
I'm not sure if it was Court TV, but we got a lot of it. We were able to see a good shot of it.
The first one.
Again, I'm not sure.
As far as I know, the Menendez trial might be one of the first ones where they allow cameras in for it. Even though, we have footage of Bundy.
Did they not? Oh, we do.
Maybe it was Bundy. I know one of the big ones. But I do remember the Bundy
video. Did they not allow the cameras in the Menendez? I don't know why that was in my head.
No. Because literally they had the OJ trial straight afterwards, and then they lost all their cameras to OJ in the midst of it, and that's why they felt like they got fucked over. But that's why they felt they got fucked over a little bit, because they were like, right, we're starting to gain sympathy, and now all the attention is on OJ. Nobody cares what happens to us anymore, so now they can hammer us home and send us away forever, and nobody cares because there's a bigger star over here in trouble. Yeah. And that's what it was like. And it was the same for Mickey and Mallory. They came into the 90s, fresh face, early 20s, ready to kick up a storm. I would assume Mallory was maybe about 17, 18 when this kicked off. So, yeah. Mickey might have been a little bit older. Yeah. It's very hard to tie down a lot of details about these guys because they like to change their stories a lot.
I was going around killing people. I'd probably change my birth date here and there.
And when you do talk to them, you see we have interview clips here with them because they did a lot of interviewing near the end. It's interesting to hear, but it's more about what makes them kill than it is what year were you born? How was your childhood? Even though they do talk a little bit about Mickey's childhood and Mallory's childhood, and they're not nice. They're not pleasant.
Okay.
So yeah.
So as we said, for the youth of the time, it was an era of fighting the system. Like men like James Dean and John Dillinger were cool again, and partners often dressed as Bonnie and Clyde as the sexy, cool couple's outfit at Halloween.
To be fair,
people still do.
Oh, I know they do. I know they do.
Oh.
I would say John Dillinger was probably made famous again by Johnny Depp in Public Enemy.
Definitely.
Fucking love that movie.
Yeah, it's a good movie.
A lot of people don't like it. I remember you not liking it the first time you watched it.
I've seen it since again, though.
Yeah, you were slow away when I suggested. You were like, all right. I was like, it's a really good fucking movie, man.
No, I had to say it was. Maybe I just caught it on the wrong
night.
And
I'll be honest, anything with Stephen Graham in it at this stage. It's
I'm watching Stephen Graham. I'm sold. Yeah. I know he does. I'm quite aware.
And that man is the king of gangsters. Let's face it. Babyface Nelson, Al Capone, whoever the fuck he was playing in Peaky Blinders.
Who was he playing in Peaky Blinders?
He wanted to be Capone.
Capone, but that was who got that? Was that
Capone never showed up in it. They just kind of hinted at him.
Yeah.
It kind of was true. Like I think Adrian Brody was kind of like, I'll have to send my friend over if you don't kind of.
That's what it was. He was mentioned once or twice. Yeah,
I'd have to watch it again before the movie comes out to pick up on it.
In fairness, though, Stephen Graham plays such like a really good bad guy, but then you see him on TV and he's such a fucking sweetheart.
When I saw him in Snatch, I thought I'd never see him in anything ever again.
Really?
I just thought he was one of these small English actors who was, in this instance, in this movie, he was Jason Statham's sidekick. And that's all I saw him was. I was like, he's going to play the sidekick role. Little did I know that, let alone is he a better actor than Statham, I would say he's probably a bigger actor than Statham.
That man has been directed by Scorsese. He's a fucking...
Jason Statham probably makes more money than him. Most likely because he does trashy fucking action movies that make huge box office. But Graham makes quality. Stephen Graham makes quality fucking shit.
I think I first saw him in This Is England and he was just perfect. Perfect in it.
Yeah, I can't wait to see his new boxing movie.
I forgot that one.
Yeah. Anyway, so Bonnie and Clyde, it was the sex. And you say it still is. Bonnie and Clyde was the sexy, cool couple's outfit in the 90s, 2000s, yeah. But
Show my age.
it's been Joker and fucking Harley Quinn for a very long time.
Oh, that's so good.
Do you know what we should do? We should do a twist on the Joker Harley Quinn
Zombie
thing.
Bonnie and Clyde.
No. I got one.
Gangster.
No, it takes me taking a leap this time because you're always putting on the sexy clothes for your pictures.
Oh, you do.
No. The cartoon. You go as Harley Quinn. I'll go as Poison Ivy.
Oh, decent.
We'll
paint
be
you.
the lesbian version of that couple. Get me a big long-haired wig. We'll have to try and hide the beard a bit, but...
You sure that you don't want to be Harley Quinn?
Oh.
If you
I
pick
turn
tails.
myself on a little bit too much.
Or if you really want, we can do half of you Poison Ivy, half of you Harley Quinn, and let you go upstairs with yourself for a while.
All right.
Yeah, so criminals mellowed into anti-heroes with old age, becoming a beacon to the hope of the disillusioned youth who felt left down by the boomers that came before them. One couple who felt this to their core was the young couple of Mickey and Knox and Mallory Wilson.
I'll be honest. I was one of these people. I'm a huge anti-hero guy. Like, I mean, like,
Oh yeah.
I even said as a kid with wrestling, all the kids love Stone Cold Steve Austin. Stone Cold Steve Austin is the man. Stone Cold is Stone Cold. I hated him. Not because of his wrestling ability, he's a badass wrestler. Not because of his character, he's got a badass character. These days, modern days, love Stone Cold Steve Austin. I think he's one of the coolest, one of the best wrestlers to ever have fucking laced up boots. The amount of money that man made in such a short period of time on top is unbelievable. At the time, he was Hulk Hogan. He might as well have been Hulk Hogan.
Yeah.
He might as well. It's the same reason when John Cena came up, I was like, not John Cena. But I was into The Rock, Triple H, The Undertaker was my man. The Undertaker specifically because he wasn't bad, he wasn't good. He was just The Undertaker. But I preferred the guys walking out talking shit. It's why when I wrestled, I was delighted to be a heel. I had no interest in going out there and going, rah, rah, everybody, yes, let's cheer.
But it's easier to be a heel than
it's a lot easier to go out and say, hey, you, fuck you, you fat piece of shit in the middle row. You want to get in the ring and do this with me? Come on, I'll kick your fucking ass, you little prick. You're nothing but a bitch. Fuck you. Next on. And you can say stuff like that.
And you can't get in
people are
trouble.
actually cheering you for doing it. You know, you're going out there like, I've never seen a bigger group of hicks in my fucking life. You look like you're all inbred, sleeping with each other's sisters and shit like that. And they cheer you, and you're like, what the fuck? Instead of going out there and trying to play the whole, I sure do love this city. You guys got the best football team. I don't care. I don't want to do that shit, man. I don't know. I'd rather go out there and insult you and have fun with it.
Nah.
But anyway, yeah, sorry. I got distracted. Wrestling keeps distracting me today.
It's okay.
Mickey and Mallory Knox were feeling it, but they were feeling it as well outside of, we say like, boomers, and boomers is a word that gets thrown around a lot, but that we can actually say it because the generation that came between us, there was boomers, Generation X, then us. Yeah?
What generation are we?
We're the millennials.
Oh, yes.
And
Are we?
Yeah, we count as millennials.
Oh.
We're just off Generation X onto millennial.
Okay.
But Generation X was kicking back pretty fucking hard. That's why it was called Generation X. They were kicking back pretty hard against the boomers that came before them, who had been able to afford these nice houses and had been able to have these nice lifestyles, but were also extremely strict and religious and had like these set of moral guidelines that they expected everybody to follow, and people like Mickey and Mallory had no interest in following these things, and especially when they weren't brought up in that kind of childhood. It's different for people who were brought up in a childhood, right, where your parents might have these morals and strictness and make you go to church on Sundays and stuff like that, but at the same time you had a nice childhood growing up. Mickey and Mallory had terrible childhoods growing up. Mickey, for one, it's not confirmed, but it is believed that his father was a very low rate hitman for a local gang.
So as in like bad at what he did or just cheap?
Cheap.
Oh.
It was just part of the gang. He was the heavy for the gang.
Okay.
Abused the shit out of his family. Mickey was only about maybe 6 or 7 when his father died.
Okay.
And this kind of belief was that Mickey was supposed to act like a man at that age. Like, he'd have Mickey out hunting with him. He'd teach Mickey how to shoot
at
guns.
6 or 7.
Yeah, Mickey will be around his father when he's around gang affiliates. So he's hearing people talk like this. He's hearing how people act and talk and react to stuff like that. Mickey's father died of a shotgun shot to the head when Mickey was at a young age. And this is where things get a bit murky. Nobody knows if this was Mickey's first hit at the age of 6 or 7 years of age or if he witnessed it. He was there when it happened. From Mickey's reaction. Now, Mickey isn't one to hide. This isn't like when we covered with Bundy, and Bundy can't talk about his crimes. Like we said last week, he talks like this when he's talking about his crimes, and he talks about it as exactly. Or other guys who might say, hypothetically, if somebody was going to kill someone like this, Mickey's proud of it.
Yeah.
Proud of it. He is prouder than BTK is prouder of his crimes.
You think he would have owned up to his dad?
He would have had no problem. He does not like his father. He had nothing positive to say about his father, but he would have said something. But when it was brought to him, and we're going to discuss it later, he does a real in-depth interview with a man named Wayne Gale later before their escape from prison. And one of the first questions he was asked was about his father's death. Okay. And before he could be asked if he did it or not, he kicked out, knocking over a table, and screamed at him, "I did not kill my father, and I don't want to talk about it." And that was it. At that point, like the guards were getting ready to cuff him and bring him back to his cell. Wayne Gale calmed things down and said, "Look, no, it's okay. He's like, "Fine, we'll move on to the next line of questioning." Do you know? Okay. So we know at that point that once his father was dead, he kind of took up as head of the household and looking after his mother, working a lot of odd jobs. But Mickey himself has said... Was
he good to his mother?
I'm not 100% sure. There isn't a lot of information about it.
It's hardly the mother that did it.
He only mentions her once in conversation, and we actually mention it. And that's where he kind of says, "Oh, my mother thinks I went crazy." You know, and that's what I'll explain. And it's kind of his eureka moment, the moment when he realizes what he is. Yeah. And that's when he mentions it. But he again was in his early life, he did see a lot of crime and stuff like that. And the fact that he still grew up in poverty and squalor, so he was still out there hurting people for one. He liked to get in fights. He liked to kill animals. He liked to do all the regular serial killer stuff. But he didn't quite understand what was going on with him. And he was trying to find a way to fit into society. So he did work odd jobs. He wasn't in school very long. Okay. Like little to no schooling. But he would do jobs and he would get work. And he was in and out of prison a little bit. Nothing major. Very small kind of misdemeanor. A lot of fighting. A lot of grievous bodily harm once or twice. And a few attempted robberies, small time shoplifting kind of stuff. Nothing serious like that you'd expect. Mallory on the other side grew up. It was her and her little brother whose name I can't find anything about. They've literally it's very similar to the BTK family. Okay. Once all this came out, any surviving members of their family names were changed and they were moved. Yeah. You know, because Mickey and Mallory are, they're hot topics. Yeah. But Mallory's father was a chronic sex abuser. To the point where Mallory said that her brother was only born because one night he was so drunk that he thought he had went into Mallory's room and had actually went into his own room and it was the one time he had sex with his wife. Thinking that he was having sex with Mallory because he was so drunk that he didn't know the difference. Yeah. He got his wife pregnant for the second time that way. Okay. But outside that, all his sexual relations were with Mallory and it was pretty much on a nightly basis. She was to be home at a certain point. He would be on the couch all day, knocking back cold ones, and eventually he'd stumble up the stairs, do what he needs to do to her, and then head back to his armchair where he'd drink a few more cold ones and fall asleep.
Yeah, well, no wonder he's dead. Just saying.
Well, yeah, and we'll get to what happens to them eventually. Mickey eventually meets Mallory when he is delivering meat. He's a meat delivery man. Okay. That was a thing back in the day. Not so much now. Well, they do. We have cooler boxes and stuff like that.
We've had traveling butchers cult. Yeah, we had a thing. My cousin used to do it. He used to have his like regular customers, and you go around. He used to go to our house.
The shops,
We'd
not
be
the
like,
houses.
yeah, we'd have the beef Wellington, and we just buy from the fridge in the back of the van. Did you ever have that?
No,
See, it could be a country thing. I don't know.
No.
Yeah.
Well, Mickey met Mallory when he was delivering a box of meat to her father, who was planning to have a bit of a cookout for some big football game he wanted to watch. He was having friends over. He met her there. Apparently, it was love at first sight. And they arranged. They didn't arrange. While Mallory said while her parents were arguing inside the kitchen, she didn't even tell him she was going missing. She just left with Mickey.
Sounds right.
When she got home, she was severely beaten for it, and had to do her usual duties for her father. Mickey found out about this over time and found herself getting more and more angry and wanted to do something about it. We will talk more about. Well, I'll tell you what happened, and I'll tell you because we have to. This story needs to be told twice in two different parts because.
One with commentary and one without commentary?
No, the start will come later. But Mickey acquires a gun.
Okay.
And Mickey decides at this point that him and Mallory need to get the fuck out of there. So he goes and gets this gun, buys this gun, goes straight to Mallory's house. They beat the living shit out of her father, who is drunk at this point already, and drown him in a fishbowl. Okay. So his head goes into the fishbowl and they both together hold his head inside there while he drowns.
Okay.
They then go upstairs where the mother is sleeping, secure her to the bed while she's still sleeping, and then pour gasoline all over her, waking her. Yeah. And as she begged for forgiveness, saying she never did anything to Mallory, her actual words was, "I did nothing," to which Mallory replied, "Exactly, you did nothing," and then threw the match on top of her.
Her father deserves that, though. If you're raping someone every night, you deserve to be fucking burnt alive. I mean, like...
Yeah, but the mother was, like, extremely well aware of it and did absolutely nothing about it.
I'm not excusing her. I'm just wondering why the father got away with a drowning.
The fact that when Mallory slips out of the house, they're arguing about the fact that the only time she had sex with her was 10 years previous when he accidentally impregnated her by thinking he was sleeping with Mallory. So she's so aware of it that it's just normal.
I know.
Do you know?
Yeah.
So they go on the run, and we're going to get into what they did while they were on the run in a minute. But they have an unofficial wedding because they're called Mickey and Mallory Knox, but they're not actually legally bindingly married. They're not married in the eyes of the law. Not that this matters to these two outlaws, because I mean they are the most.
They're married and to each other personally, as far as they're concerned.
Yeah, and they've talked about what actually happened at their wedding ceremony.
Okay.
They said they were driving down the road and they knew, that this was it. From here on out, this was going to be their life. They were going to go on the road. They were going to go on a killing spree. They were going to rob. This is how they were going to live their life free and easy and do what they wanted. But they were going to do it all together. Okay. Now, we talked about Tiffany Valentine and Charles Lee Ray last week and how, 4 weeks ago when we were talking about their relationship, how, that's what Tiffany wanted. And then she comes home and finds Charles with another woman. Killing another woman even. Yeah. And she sees that as a thing of cheating. That would never happen with Mickey and Mallory. Because they wouldn't cheat in each other. They're hooked to each other, They are one. Mickey and Mallory Knox are one. So much so that their wedding rings were like two halves of a dragon. Like a Japanese style dragon. Yeah. So when you put the two rings together, it made the one full dragon.
That's romantic.
And they said that they stood on a bridge overlooking a giant gorge. And that they tied a little wrap around their hands. They put their rings on and then let the wrap fall away. As they said their vows to each other, let the wrap fall away down the gorge. And as far as they were concerned, from that day on, they were married.
That's where it all kicked off.
Tonight, I'm standing on Highway 666, running through towns like Cortez, Shiprock, Sheep Springs, and ending in Gallup, New Mexico. To some, a beautiful stretch of the American landscape, but to Mickey and Mallory Knox, who are still at large, it is literally a candy lane of murder and mayhem. Patrolman Gerald Nash was just the first of 12 peace officers that Mickey and Mallory murdered during their reign of terror. Gerald and his partner, Dale Wrigley, We're parked at this donut shop. Alfie's Donuts. When...
This 1970 Dodge Challenger pulled up across the street from the donut shop. Gerald is only 3 weeks out of the academy. Come walking out with coffee.
Thanks, folks.
My bear claw.
Hey, you.
Driver asked him a question.
How the hell you get to Farmington?
He looked like he was giving street directions.
Here's around 324. Take it over to 66. And Farmington's up about 65 miles. Quick ride. You folks going there?
When he finished
We'll have a
and
nice
waved
day.
him thanks, then up come that shotgun.
In the ensuing chase, a tragic murder occurred. American bronze medalist marathon bicyclist Brian
I always wanted to take a shot at one of them. They're not so easy to hit.
So that's Mallory's voice you hear there at the end. It's not easy to listen to what they actually got up to. It's pretty fucking violent. Like I said, that was what they were all about. It was just violence. Everywhere they went, that's all they wanted. They weren't interested in money. This is very much like that scene in Batman Begins when the Joker has the piles and piles of money there and he's lighting it on fire, and it's like, you know, what do you give a man who just wants to see the world burn? And that's pretty much what Mickey and Mallory Knox wanted. They just wanted to burn everything down around them. And it's hard. It is hard to listen to. It's hard to listen to that cop talk about it. Not so much Gail. We learn as we go along, Gail's exactly what Mickey and Mallory were rebelling against was this sensationalized media, and they tried to make themselves this sensationalization almost to show the people how far we had come in, like, look at who you're supporting, look at what we're doing and what you're supporting, and look at the people you're giving money to who are supporting us to do this. You know, we're killing more and more people because Wayne's putting a camera on us for it, you know. And Wayne's doing it because Wayne just wants to be famous. He's the worst kind of scum, you know? But I hate it with the cops. And you know what? The terrible thing about it is I am not a fan of police. I never have been. I find a lot of them to be a bit over the top power hungry. It's very hard to find a nice one, a good one, a solid one. But, you know, the more we watch these documentaries, especially about serial killers, and I have seen some hardened cops cry now on documentaries, and it's hard, and you realize, like, especially the American ones, what they have to see on a daily basis, what they have to deal with on a daily basis, how there's no wonder why they retire at such a young age.
But
you know?
Being a murder detective, you can't be easy. But if you're one of these little short arse fuckers that's going around taking the big issue off homeless people in the middle of a fucking town, that's fucking
just
different.
being a dick.
Yeah. Well, I suppose the same goes for Gail. Whether you love him or hate him, it's thanks to Gail that we get some of the most compelling interview footage with a serial killer in all of the history of television. But before we get to that, let's follow along with some of the highlight kills of Mickey and Mallory Knox as they went on a 3-week rampage across South America.
And with Mickey's kill count now at 162 and Mallory's at 73, we kind of just have to play the hits. Now, I know it was 48 or 49 before they went to prison. So this will tell you how dangerous these people were. They double, trebled their numbers while locked up. You know?
Yeah.
People were safer with Mickey and Mallory Knox on the street than they were off the street. No, the type of people they were killing off the street might have bought it. There'd be a good reason to not want to get yourself locked up in prison. You know?
Mickey and Mallory are.
What we need is a Mickey and Mallory in every prison. It's like, if you go to jail, you're going to share a fucking prison cell with Mickey Knox. Yeah. No, I'm not going to. Mickey once had a cellmate, right? This is the truth before we move on. It was just one little story I heard about him. Once had a cellmate, and he got on really well with him for a short amount of time. The cellmate was into yoga. And you and me, we like yoga. We do yoga when we can.
It's relaxing.
And he found the same. He said it was a very relaxing thing until the guy helping him learn yoga stopped entertaining or stopped being, or started annoying him a bit. And one day that guy was in downward facing dog and Mickey put his foot in his spine and grabbed his neck and pulled backwards. And he killed that guy stone fucking dead. And as far as I know, it was some small slight, like, something along the lines of, I'm going to go do a yoga session. You're doing one today. And Mickey's saying, no, I'm going to check out. And your man kind of taking the piss out of him a little bit for skipping a day.
Oh.
Do you know? And Mickey being like, well, fuck you.
I just wouldn't tease him. I thought that would be quite obvious.
But he thought he was friendly with him. Mickey is extremely charismatic.
Mm.
Mickey will make you feel like he's your best friend. And then turn around and say, well, that's it. We're done now. And it's like, hey, hold up on that. And we'll hear that later when he does the exact same thing to Wayne Gale. Like,
okay.
You know?
Yeah.
So
most of their kills cross over, don't they? I mean, Mickey's got twice as many kills under his belt than Mallory.
Well, that's because of the way they were locked up. And I'd say Mickey was definitely the main instigator here. You see him later in interviews. It's almost Manson-esque with the way he is and the way he airs his kind of manifesto to the world. I mean, the interview between him and Wayne Gale has been strongly compared to an interview with Geraldo Rivera and Charles Manson, where it said Geraldo thought he was getting the greatest interview of his life, whereas Manson was just having fun with him and doing what Manson does. And I feel like he's very much the same here, that he kind of gets a bit big in himself, because when we get to the court case, you see that they had a lot of fucking fans. They had a lot of people screaming their name as they were coming in and out. It was like the Beatles were going to the court every day, you know?
Yeah.
It was that kind of feeling, or Elvis Presley just walked in the building kind of thing of that era, and that's how they were treated. But yeah, so before we get into some of their bigger crimes, we'll just talk about some of the smaller stuff they did. There was, obviously, you heard in that clip earlier on. What did they say? How many police officers did they kill?
12?
It was in double digits anyway, and that was again before prison.
Yeah.
Once they got into prison, there's a few more cops, a few more prison guards that get it as well. Convenience stores, motels, truck stops for food, diners. These are all common places for them to attack.
Yeah.
Do you want to get into some of the bigger ones here?
Yeah. So one of the big ones was the murder of a group of teens at a slumber party. At 11 p.m. on July 13th, 1993, the Knoxes broke into the 2319 East 100th Street townhouse in Jeffrey Manor neighborhood, Colorado. The townhouse was owned by the family of Grace Mulberry, the one survivor of the night.
Yes, and we will say why that's important soon.
Yes. They entered and, using only a knife, killing Gloria Davy, Patricia Matusek, Nina Jo Schmale, Pamela Wilkening, Suzanne Farris, Marianne Jordan, Marlita Gargulo, Valentina Passion, and Tim Mulberry, which was Grace's older brother. Mickey, who later claimed he was both drunk and high on drugs, said he held one of the women in a room for hours, leading them out one by one. Sorry, he held all the women in the room, and then he led them out one by one, and he stabbed or strangled each to death, with Mallory cheering on. Then finally raping and strangling his last victim, 22-year-old Gloria Davy. So intervals of between 20 and 30 minutes elapsed between each murder.
Jesus Christ.
And as we said, one girl managed to come out of the ordeal alive, and not by her own cunning, but purely by design.
I'll get into that in a minute, but imagine being there in the queue waiting.
Knowing.
And then these people are just in glee, happily leading you out and doing what they're doing. And they do it and enjoy. And when they say drugs as well, apparently his drug of choice was stuff like ayahuasca and stuff like that, or mushrooms. He's a very horrible guy. Very horrible kind of person.
Very organic.
So why they left one alive? Because you'd be thinking this is something that most criminals will go out of their way not to do. It's the one thing you don't do. It's criminality 101. Leave no fucking witnesses.
Unless you want to instill terror.
Yeah, Mickey and Mallory were all about the Western outlaw legend shit. So they'd always murder all but one person at every crime scene, just so there would be someone left alive to tell the tale of Mickey and Mallory Knox.
And in the early hours of July 20th, 1 week after the last brutal attack, the Knoxes entered CU Chi Omega's sorority house through a rear door with a faulty locking mechanism. Beginning at about 2:45 a.m., they bludgeoned Margaret Elizabeth Bowman, age 21, with a piece of oak firewood as she slept, and then garroted her with a nylon stocking.
I hate that word, garroted.
Yeah, it sounds awful. Then they entered the bedroom of 20-year-old Lisa Janet Levy and bet her unconscious, strangled her, tore one of her nipples, bit deeply into her left buttock, and sexually assaulted her with a hair mist bottle.
It was the bite marks as well that were... Not that they had the fucking bite marks
forensics
to link it to them. Again, they were happy to
They linked
admit
themselves.
We'll get to the court testimony in a few minutes, and it's not like he's hiding the fact that he did it. No. And you'll see why. Yeah.
And in an adjoining bedroom, then they attacked Kathy Kleiner, who was age 21. They broke her jaw and deeply lacerated her shoulder. And Karen Chandler then was age 21, and she suffered a concussion, broken jaw, loss of teeth, and a crushed finger. Kleiner survived the attack and attributed her survival to an automobile headlights illuminating the interior of the room and frightening away the attacker.
But we know Mickey and Mallory aren't scared of shit. So she was just their living witness. Yep. CU detectives determined that the 4 attacks took place in a total of less than 15 minutes.
Ooh.
Within earshot of more than 30 witnesses who heard nothing. After leaving the sorority house, Mickey and Mallory broke into a basement apartment 8 blocks away and attacked 21-year-old FSU student Cheryl Thomas, dislocating her shoulder and fracturing her jaw and skull in 5 places. She was left with permanent deafness in her left ear and equilibrium damage that ended her dance career. On Thomas's bed, police found a semen stain and pantyhose mask containing 2 hairs similar to Mallory's in class and characteristics. That would be the hairs. Obviously, the semen stain was not Mallory's.
No. Nowhere near Mallory's.
No. Completely different semen. And in this case, they were asked... because it was brought up in an interview. It was like, well, what do you do when you only have one victim? They're like, well, there's no story if we don't kill somebody, so why we have to kill them? We just have to go on with that one, not having a witness. But in this case, they were asked the same question, and they just said that they were tired. They ran out of bullets, they were tired, and they just weren't down for strangling it. That's it. So they left them alive. They did enough damage to her, and they were like, it's enough to keep the tale of Mickey and Mallory and Knox going. And they moved on.
Well, we could go on and on and on and on when it comes to the many violent and disgusting crimes of Mickey and Mallory. And film another 4-part series. 4-part series? Yeah. But we've had enough of 4-part series. We're just out of one. But the most interesting stuff really doesn't happen until they get caught. So I say we fast forward to their capture and then just go from there.
But that's it. I mean, the story of Mickey, Mallory, and Knox is pretty repetitive. They go someplace, they shoot up a bunch of people, they kill a bunch of people. It's not very creative in the way they do it. They're very, bang, bang, thank you, ma'am, I'm gone, So it's just about numbers more than anything. And the real interesting stuff doesn't happen until we get them into court, until we get them into prison, until everything that goes on in those forums. And to me, like I keep saying that I believe BTK got himself caught on purpose to retire as the notorious BTK killer. I think that's partially this as well. As like, I think what they're doing in the killing, it's boring by design because they're not interested in this part of it. They're interested. No, Mickey tells a story later and you believe different. But I think they were looking forward to getting caught. I don't think they expected the punishment they got. And I think that's what kind of fucks up their plans as it goes along. But I think they had always intended to go down as the infamous Mickey and Mallory Knox. And I think if they had the choice, they would have went down shooting rather than getting caught the way they did. So what happens is the bodies are racking up and they're trying to hide out. They're kind of stuck with hiding in very rural areas or desert areas in this case, from their area of where they're living. It's very southern, very dusty. And that's where they spend a lot of their time, pitching tents or sleeping out in their car and stuff like that. One night in the dark, they're tenting it and they both end up getting bitten by a snake. So they're stumbling. Now, the snake venom is hitting them pretty hard, they're getting pretty sick. It's the middle of the night. They break into a convenience store, a big shopping store. You know, the ones in America, they have their pharmacies built in there and all that. And there was one man who was there. He was kind of to look after the place overnight. It wasn't a 24-hour place, but he was a pharmacy worker. But it was one of these people who'd stay overnight to stock shelves, to stock cakes, stuff like that. And again, this is where the famous line of, why should I, if we don't kill you, what's the story to tell? Because apparently he's heard saying that in CCTV. They go in there and they start kicking up. They didn't realize that the attendant had set off a silent alarm. Okay. In the meantime, they're trying to rack up as much medicine as they can and to try and find the snake bite juice before it's too fucking late for them. Mm-hmm. While they're in a weakened state, the cops come in, they grab Mallory, and then they use Mallory as a chess piece, basically, bait piece to get Mickey to come out and give himself up. Mallory, when he comes out, is screaming at him to go out in a hail of gunfire. Like, shoot him, fucking shoot him, don't let him shoot me too, shoot him all this kind of stuff. They came over and they beat the living shit out of Mickey Knox and put him fucking down, and they locked him up into the tightest shackles they had. He had neck shackled to hands, shackled to feet, doubled over. Christ. So he had 2 sets of these on constantly. It started with one, but as time went on after arrest, they felt like there was a need for extras. And we're about to get into the court case, and you'll find out very, very quickly why the Mickey Knox was one step off the Hannibal Lecter treatment. Yeah, well. Oh, Hannibal Lecter. There's a guy that we got to cover someday. Absolutely. That'll be a fun one. Whew.
Well, the court case was something else, with the pair choosing to replicate Bundy and to represent themselves.
This meant the witnesses allowed to live to tell the tale of Mickey and Mallory Knox would have to face their demons in cross-examination in court for all the world to see. Can you imagine? I mean, we've seen it with Bundy before. Mm-hmm. Obviously not a very nice thing, but in Bundy's cases, Bundy was facing victims' families. People's families he had wronged, not the people he had wronged.
Bundy wouldn't have been able to interview his victims. I don't think he would have been able to actually stand there and speak to them.
People are victims, all but short being killed. If they had been killed, they would have. The only thing they weren't victimized in the way of they weren't murdered. They were still tortured, beaten, raped, hurt. Mm-hmm. Forced to physically watch friends and family get brutally murdered in front of them. Yeah. And then, just told, well, you get to live to tell the tale and walk off.
Like you're special.
So, I mean, to them, they had just seen the devil incarnate. They had seen the real life devil in front of them, and now they were going to have to go and face him again in front of everyone. And now he was going to be able to pick their story apart in front of everybody, and they just had to grin and bear it.
Exactly. And one such witness was 17-year-old Grace Mulberry, and she was lucky enough to be left to tell the tale. And
right now we're saying she was lucky enough to be she was left to tell that tale, but let's see how this goes for her.
This haunted young lady summoned up the courage to take the stand and tell what she saw that horrible night, and then allow herself to be cross-examined by the man who killed her brother and girlfriends.
So Grace was terrified of Mickey with good fucking reason. I mean, anyone with any bit of intelligence is scared of Mickey Knox. Yeah. You have to understand, most of their victims were normal people with normal lives, and nothing out of the ordinary ever happened to them. Then out of the blue, you're dealing with the devil incarnate. It was extremely difficult for the state to find survivors who would take the stand to testify when they knew Mickey would be cross-examining them. Grace was every bit as terrified, every bit as haunted, but she felt her brother Tim and her girlfriends were counting on her to kind of step up here and do her duty. They didn't actually need that many witnesses to step up and talk, because again, Mickey and Mallory weren't worried about leaving evidence behind. So it wasn't like it was going to be a hard conviction, but Mickey and Mallory wanted the fanfare, so they were going to drag it out. Okay. So when they were asked, what do you plead? It was innocent. Assholes. Let's go through this big long court case, cost you a load of money, and then you'll send us to prison because you can't. I don't think the death penalty was in favor at the time in California.
No, it would have been off, wouldn't it?
Yeah, so they were. They knew that wasn't on the table. They knew they were saving. They knew this was always the end result for them. They didn't really care.
So the next section that we're going to get into is the transcript from Mickey's last cross-examination of a witness that just happened to be Grace Mulberry. So Grace was terrified of Mickey, who was playing with a pencil as he surveyed the courtroom.
So I'm going to do Mickey, and you're going to do Grace, okay? So every time I'm talking now, I'm Mickey Knox. Every time you talk, you're Grace.
Yes.
So that's one hell of a story, Miss Mulberry.
Yes, it is. And at this point, Mickey began to pace from right to left of the courtroom.
Grace, I hope you don't mind if I call you Grace. Grace, I'd like to talk to you about your late brother Tim, if you feel up to it. Did you get along?
And Mickey waits for an answer that doesn't come.
Miss Mulberry.
More or less.
More or less? What do you mean by that?
Well, he's my older brother. When we were growing up, there were times we could have done very well without each other, but when it counted, we were close.
I'd like to talk about Tim's martial arts abilities. How long has he been studying?
He started when he was in the 7th grade, so that would make it 9 years.
When you study the martial arts, they give you belts that come in different colours to signify what level you are at your training. I'm correct on that point, yeah?
Yes, you are.
What was the colour of Tim's belt?
The style of fighting that Tim studied didn't believe in belts.
Is that a fact? Well then, Grace, could you tell us what form of martial arts it was that Tim was schooled in?
Tim studied several styles, but his favourite was Jeet Kune Do.
Jeet Kune Do. Now, I did some research on that form of fighting, and I found out that Jeet Kune Do was a style developed by Bruce Lee. Did you know that?
Yes, I did. That's why Tim studied it.
Now, while I freely admit total ignorance on the subject, I have heard of Bruce Lee. And I was under the impression that Bruce Lee was one of the, if not the, greatest fighter in the history of martial arts.
That's what Tim said.
So I think it would be safe to say that anybody who studied the fighting style that Bruce Lee, arguably the greatest martial artist of all times, developed for 9 years, that would be a fella who could defend himself. Would you describe Tim that way, Grace?
Yes, I would. And then Mickey pointed at Grace with a pencil in his hand.
Point of fact, weren't Tim's hands registered as lethal weapons?
Yes, they were.
That means his hands are considered a weapon, like a gun or a knife. Am I correct on that point?
Yes, you are.
Yet, in your testimony just now, you described that Tim kicked me 4 times in the head, and his trained martial arts kicks had little to no effect. Then after shrugging off 4 blows to the head like I was Superman, I lifted Tim 9 years of Jeet Kune Do Mulberry off the ground and threw him across the room.
And Mickey, with his arms raised over his head, pantomimes throwing Tim's body.
Then I took this knife and proceeded to tear him limb from limb.
And at this point, he picked up the buck knife used in the crime from the evidence table, and the prosecution objected on the grounds of intimidating the witness with the murder weapon. The objection was sustained, and Knox was told to put down the knife.
Not that he needed it. And this man, whose hands were lethal weapons, had little to no defense.
I don't know how you did it, but you did it.
Mr. Knox, the knife. That's the judge speaking.
Mickey glanced at the judge and then slowly placed the knife back on the table.
Now, how do you think a human being could possibly be capable of doing something like that?
I don't know.
No, I don't believe that, Grace. I think you have a definite opinion on how I was able to do those things you described. Now, I'm going to ask you again, and I want you to remember, you're under oath. In your opinion, Miss Mulberry, how was I able to murder your brother Tim in the manner you described?
You're not human. I thought about it a lot, and the only thing I could figure out is that you're not human. You're a vampire or the devil or a monster, a cyborg or something like that, but you're not human. Mickey and Mallory were both smiling broadly at this point.
Thank you, Grace. There's one other thing.
What? Mickey smiled for the court cameras.
You're right.
Grace tearfully looked up and met Mickey's demonic glare as he plunged his pencil deep into her chest, live on court TV. Grace's eyes went wide as Mickey's vicious attack continued. Cameras whipped close to Bisbing, the lead counsel for prosecution, jumping up, screaming as pandemonium broke out behind her. Mickey gleefully punctured Grace's blood-soaked chest over and over again, and Judge Steinman slammed frantically with his gavel while directing. But they were too late, and Grace went limp in the stand.
I never got this, right? Because they do the same thing. I know I keep comparing things to wrestling. Now, first of all, this shows how fucking vicious Mickey really is. Anything in Mickey's hands is a weapon. But the judge beating on the gavel saying order, order. They tried the same shit in wrestling, right? When the wrestlers start fighting after the match and there's like 20 wrestlers in the ring beating the shit out of each other, and security are coming everywhere. Someone's hitting the ring bell. Like, that's going to make the guy go, do you know what? I'm calm, I'm cool, I'm sorry, my bad.
I think the ring bell is funny, and also everybody just going like this, but never actually laying hands. I always get a laugh out of that.
Pretend to hold it back.
A whole circle of people just like that, but making no contact.
That wasn't going to help with Mickey Knox, that's for fucking sure. Anyway.
And as the sheriff deputies reached Mickey from all sides, the pencil broke off inside Grace. The bloody eraser end of the pencil still in Mickey's hand as Grace's head fell back. Her mouth opened in terror and her eyelids closed, tears rolling from where they clenched tightly as the sheriff deputies wrestled Mickey away from Grace. As he was being wrestled to the ground, he roared,
"No further questions, Your Honor."
After the deadly brouhaha in the courtroom, the judge, Honorable Bart Steinsman, Honorable is catching me out tonight. Honorable. He passed down a sentence that was to make legal history. When asked, was there any vengeance in his part with the unique sentence, Judge Steinsman said...
Now, before I quote what he said, I actually think this is the best. This is the type of punishment I like. This is like getting you where it hurts, getting you where it really stings, but there's not it's not a death penalty because you can't do a death penalty. We're going to talk about it here, but the way he does it, I think, is beautiful and well deserved because he took away the one thing the two of them loved the most, and we'll get into it now. So when he was asked about was there any vengeance in it, he said, yes, unquestionably. After they did what they did in my court, any judge worth his robe will tell you the same thing. It couldn't help but affect my decision. That's why they have judges. We're supposed to be fair to a fault, but when it's showtime, we have to make a big decision. That's why we don't just input all the facts into a computer for appropriate punishment. I couldn't give them the death penalty. See, California hops back and forth on that issue. Mickey and Mallory went to court when it was out of favor, which is actually good because it leaves more room for imagination. This is what I'm talking about. This is the way we should be looking at punishments. Anybody can give somebody the chair. When you have someone who deserves to die and you can't kill them, you have to be creative. And if the bastards had let it stand, it would have been the perfect sentence. I hit them right where they lived. Far more punishing than a death sentence. In a rogues gallery of killers, Mickey and Mallory Knox are very unique. I've seen a lot of killers in my day, and they're a cool lot. But they have no more feelings about taking a person's life than squashing a tiny bug. It's all the same to them. Well, Mickey and Mallory... where that kill them to watch them there. Mickey and Mallory, they were more of that kill them to watch their expression change attitude personified. So not just killing for the sake of killing because they want to watch the light leave your eyes. Except they had to do it with each other. And since they lived only for each other, I wanted to attack that at its very root. So in a nutshell, my sentence was double life for each without any possibility of parole. That would be fairly standard in their case. The twist I added was that the husband and wife would have no contact or correspondence with each other for the rest of their lives. And they would never receive any word or information about the other. So basically, once the cell door slams shut, Mickey and Mallory will completely disappear from each other's lives. They'll never even know when the other dies. But alas, the best laid plans of mice and men.
And so the couple began their double life sentences apart, fully in the belief that they would never see each other again. Or were they?
Well, that's why he said the best laid plans of mice and men.
Yes.
Because the original plan was, we're going to keep these two separate. We're going to keep them locked up tight. And that's the way they're going to live the rest of their lives.
Seems
and
logical.
That's our Mickey and Mallory problem done. Mallory and Mickey, well, Mickey stayed stoic inside there. He wasn't happy about it, but he kept his cool and he was let out of the courtroom and whatever. Mallory was taking, kicking and screaming. Actually, singing and kicking and screaming. Because almost as soon as it was passed on that she would never see Mickey again, Mallory would only communicate in song. She wouldn't have discussion. She wouldn't talk to people. She spent all day singing.
Okay.
From morning to night, same songs. He's a rebel, leader of the pack, Town Without Pity, I Only Want to Be With You, which we all know they're obviously related to her missing Mickey. And this one, which I can only assume was directed towards the law, Dead Skunk in the Middle of the Road. I've never heard it. Maybe it's a lovely song. Maybe it's a song about a husband and wife that love each other. But Dead Skunk in the Middle of the Road was the other one she liked to sing. That was usually sang at police officers or at correctional officers when they came to drop stuff off or pick stuff up from her. And the maiming and murdering did not stop. They were full on. Any chance they got, they could not be left alone. This is why I'd say, like, Mickey in particular, because Mallory, to the most part, would sing, and if you got too close to her, yeah, she could fucking kill you, so they kept their distance. So Mallory's numbers generally stayed down. With Mickey in the men's side of the prison, it just felt like they couldn't leave him alone with anything or anyone. They short of leaving him in an empty fucking padded room. That's the only way you could be sure that Mickey wasn't going to kill anybody. As soon as someone was in a room with Mickey, there was a possibility he could kill him.
Okay.
Didn't matter if the room was empty. Didn't matter if he had weapons. Didn't matter if he was tied, hog-tied, fucking whatever. More often than not, they'd come back and Mickey be sitting there covered in blood, smiling, and the person would be dead. Which is why they brought in the double shackles, double chains. He still severely missed Mallory and used to write her letters regularly. Obviously, letters that he knew she'd never get to read, or believed at the time she wasn't going to get to read.
Yeah.
I have one of them here. I'm going to read. This one got released to the public a little after everything that happens is what happened. I don't want to spoil it. But anyway. Dearest Mallory, my cell is so cold. At nights I get the chills. I pretend you're lying next to me, holding me from behind with your leg draped over mine and your arms wrapped tightly around me. Yes, the way we sleep. I lie in my cell and imagine kissing you. Not making love, just kissing for hours and hours on end. I remember everything about our time. I remember every joke you ever told. I remember every secret you ever shared or revealed. I think shared is proper. I remember every single time you laughed. I remember every meal we ever ate. I remember your cooking. I especially remember your casseroles. I remember watching David Letterman. I remember driving faster, man, fast behind the wheel of the Coupe de Ville. You, baby, by my side, your bare feet in the dash, singing along to the radio. Needles and pins, he's a rebel, you're my world, ring of fire, love grows, where my rosemary goes, groove me, and you're dancing, my God, you're dancing. I lie on my bed and I go over every day, every minute of our happiness. Every day, take a day of our time and go through it, hour by hour. I don't jump ahead either. I take it as it comes and I live that day again. That way, when I get to our first kiss, the killing of your parents, our wedding, they're not just memories. I feel that joy again. I experience a chunk of emotion I felt then, and I am no longer in prison. We're together again, and when my head hurts and I can remember no longer, I write you letters and send them telepathically to your heart.
Do you know what? If it wasn't for the people and the events surrounding that letter, that is an extremely well-written romantic letter. Yeah, absolutely.
These are two people who are wildly in love. I mean, despite of what they did, they are extremely in love. I mean, there's no denying that. Like, it was a lot for them to handle. And the separation was a lot for them to handle. But because it was a lot for them to handle, it also became a lot for the prison system to handle. Yeah. Because if they weren't going to be happy, no one else was going to be fucking happy either. So they were notorious, as I said, for murdering pretty much anyone that was put within fucking spitting distance of them. And for that reason, they were being moved from one prison to another prison to another prison. And it got to the point where they ended up in one prison and it was that prison couldn't get rid of them. And the two of them ended up in the same prison. Either end of the prison, they still had no contact with each other. They weren't even fully aware that the other one was there until divine intervention, they call it later, happens. But they're in the same prison and they're put there and the decision is made that they are mentally incompetent and we're going to ship them off to a mental institution instead of keeping them here and make it the health problem rather than a prison problem. So we can get into that now.
Yeah. So Dr. Albert Rodriguez and Dr. Felix Vargas were brought in for the competency tests in order to move the murderous couple. Worth noting here that they were not the original doctors to deem the Knoxes competent for original trial. Rodriguez and Vargas refused to comment on the issue later, but a Dr. Emil Reingold was willing to talk, and he had a slightly different opinion to the state. And he said...
It's a funny situation, actually. If anybody besides Mickey and Mallory gave a damn what the prison board was doing, it would be considered an outrage. The prison board is basically saying, we can't handle these guys. They've moved them around twice since their sentence started. They were a handful everywhere they went. Now the prisons they're at now want them out of there. But no other prison is going to be stupid enough to take them, so the prison board is left scratching their heads, wondering what they're going to do. Well, what they decided to do was set up a kangaroo medical court that found them crazy. Then they get them transferred to Nystorm Medical Asylum, or Lobotomy Bay as it's referred to in the psychiatric circle. Put them on a strict dope and electroshock diet, and Mickey and Mallory cease to be a problem to anyone except the orderlies who clean out their bedpans, which, if you want to see them get theirs, that's all well and good. But there's something being said here. Forget the immorality for a second. Forget the corruption and skullduggery involved. What the board is saying here is we give up. Mickey and Mallory ran amok there too. All the powers that can't deal with these two kids, and whatever can't be assimilated has to be terminated.
So, I mean, in his opinion, Mickey and Mallory, they weren't insane.
Insane, no. Psychotic, yes. A menace to living creatures, yes. But to suggest that they're insane gives the impression that they don't know right from wrong. Mickey and Mallory knew the difference between right and wrong. They just didn't give a damn. And the worry here, again, like the doctor said, he's like, well, fuck Mickey and Mallory. We're not worried about Mickey and Mallory. What we're worried here is about the precedent this sets by saying we can't control Mickey and Mallory, so we're going to put them in a mental institution, just keep them here out of harm's way. And he's like, well, that's fine for these two that they can't control and can't keep quiet. What happens to the next group that comes along and they can't keep them quiet? And is that what we're going to do? Is this what we're going to just going to become common practice now? Yeah. Are we going to overfill our hospitals with lobotomized murderers? You know, is that how we're dealing with things? So that's where the worry was coming in with what was going on.
And either way, the decision was made and the Knoxes would be moved to Lobotomy Bay. Yes, Detective Jack Scagnetti was drafted in to make the move, being as the NBK Killers was his collar, like his baby. And with his reputation for killer catching, Scagnetti seemed like the only cop tough enough or smart enough to deal with Mickey and Mallory.
Oh, and I only thought of it when you said NBK Killers, before we talk about Jack Scagnetti, because he's got an interesting past too. Fun fact again, because I keep bringing up wrestling in the show, I might as well bring up another fun fact. My wrestling tag team name was the Natural Born Killers. We did steal it from Mickey and Mallory. It wasn't, our gimmick was an insane bit. We weren't a couple. We were like Jay and Silent Bob, hetero life partners. And that's what they call themselves.
I know it's what they
I'm
call
Jay,
themselves.
This is my hetero life partner, Bob. But our gimmick was very much like that, except Roach stayed quiet and I did all the crazy talk.
Yeah, that's true, actually.
But it was very much their style of, why are you doing what you're doing? Why not? You know, and that was just kind of what we used to do as well. But we got our MBK, Natural Born Killers name, from the name they gave themselves. They're kind of like BTK that way. People who with those type of initials, they like to name themselves for some reason. But it's not that they name themselves. It's just something he says that catches on, and we get to it when we get to the interview with Mallory, Mickey Knox. So Scagnetti, do you remember I was talking to you only maybe a week or two ago? It might have been on the show actually. And we were talking about the guy who went up into the clock tower and started shooting down.
Yeah.
Charles Whitman.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Okay.
Scagnetti's mother was one of his victims. So
sorry, what? Scagnetti's mother was one of
Whitman's victims. She was on the college campus and was shot by Charles Whitman.
Oh.
So Charles Whitman, for those who don't know, you would have seen it parodied multiple times on American TV show. King of the Hill did an episode about it, where Dale goes up into a clock tower and they think he's going shooting down it, and then there's a big brouhaha about that.
Buffy did it.
Did they?
Yeah, do you remember the clock tower in Buffy, and she has to save somebody? It was like
it's done really often anyway. That someone's in a clock tower and they're shooting all of it. Charles Whitman is a man who influenced them all. Charles Whitman was studying engineering at the University of Texas when he went into the school's iconic tower and started shooting. When the sun went down, Whitman had shot 49 and killed 16. Very early on the morning of August 1st, 1966, Whitman murdered his wife and mother. Only because he wanted to save them the embarrassment of what he was about to do.
Just don't do what you're about to do. Fuck me.
I don't know about his mother, but definitely for his wife, it was something along the lines of, I just don't want to, I'm going to have to do this, and I don't want you to have to live with that shame, so I'm going to kill you first. Buying a Universal M1 carbine and 2 additional ammo magazines with 8 boxes of ammo, Whitman told the cashier that he was going out to hunt wild hogs. Instead, he drove to Chuck's gun house and bought 4 more carbine magazines, 6 boxes of ammo. Bones of ammo, it sounds cool though. 6 boxes of ammo and gun cleaning solvent. Whitman's next stop was Sears, where he bought a 12-gauge semi-automatic shotgun. It is way too easy to buy good. I can't even do that with painkillers.
After pop to Walmart.
If I want to buy Panadol, I'd struggle to do that.
You can't even get pepper spray for self-fucking protection. You can walk into a supermarket over there and get yourself a fucking shotgun.
His van, a mobile armory, he brought that home. So basically he filled his van up like a mobile armory and went home.
What did he need gun cleaning salt? What's he planning? Like, why did he need to clean the gun?
I wondered the same thing. I don't know, maybe for firing off that many rounds
that quick. To keep it fluid, keep it moving.
So it doesn't jam up. I would assume that gunpowder is going to leave a shitty residue inside there every time. Whitman modified some of the weapons and sawed off the barrel of a 12-gauge, packed food, coffee, earplugs, water, lighter fluid, robe, machete, 3 knives, and toilet paper. This guy was planning to stay for a while.
Sounds like siege.
Whitman stepped into khaki coveralls. At 11 a.m., he started to drive to the tower. After Whitman barricaded the observation tower, 2 brothers, one 16 and 18, tried to move past. Whitman fired and the 16-year-old went down dead. His brother hit with shots to the head and neck, recoiled down the stairs and landed at the feet of his family. They were the first to die that day. I'm not 100% sure about this either, but I believe when I heard the story originally as well, he actually passed the family on the way up and saluted them. He was like, "Hey, how you doing?" And they were like, "Hey, how you going?" They were like seconds away from being his first victims. It was just a case of
2 brothers, like.
Yep. So as Whitman sat with his back against the north wall, a police officer, Romero Martinez, fired 6 shots from a .38 police revolver from 50 feet. All 6 missed, and as Whitman moved forward, police officer Houston McCoy shifted to the right, fired 2 shots of 100 buckshot and killed Whitman, hitting the murderer in the head, neck, and left side. So the difference there being, for people who don't know, if you're shooting a regular bullet, it's just going to fire 1 bullet. Shotguns generally fire what's called buckshot, and that's where when the bullet comes out, it will explode into tiny fragments. So you're getting hit with like your wide parts of you are getting hit instead of the pinpoint. You're getting sprayed. Yeah. After an autopsy, Whitman was buried on August 5th in Florida's Hillcrest Memorial Park. He was laid to rest next to his mother. With Whitman in the midst of a 96-minute killing spree, witnesses and victims and potential targets crouched behind trees, hid under desks, and took cover in stairwells. Those that had been hit played dead. There was no precedent for the tragedy. Whitman introduced the country to the idea of mass murder in a public place. So this is your first mass shooting in America. So this guy Scagnetti was essentially born into blood and had a need for vengeance very early. He was like a fucking poor, scummy Batman, is the only way to describe him, because he wasn't a very nice person either.
Oh, was he not? He
was known for, very, very well known for picking up hookers and beating the shit out of them, strangling them, not killing them, but strangling them. There was one sex worker found strangled to death that was nearly linked to him. But it's believed because of who he is and who his name was, it was all kind of cleaned away and hidden for him. Scagnetti was known for bringing in big collars. He caught big killers. He had a book out at this time for Natural Killers. I can't remember what it was, the name of the book. It's hard to find much about him now because since he's passed, has come out and he's become a bit more of a controversial figure. Cancel culture. His books aren't as ready. Information about him isn't as readily available that praises him.
Okay.
But it is known that he did bring in a couple of big name killers, and that is why he was called upon to move Mickey and Mallory Knox. And they weren't even going to do it at the same time. The plan was you move Mallory first while we're interviewing Mickey for this show with Wayne Gale, and then you come back and you bring Mickey. And if one of them so much as twitches the wrong way, you have full 100% permission to blow their fucking heads off. In fact, some people within the prison system say that Scagnetti had been told to fabricate that twitch and to just blow their fucking heads off because no one would argue with Jack Scagnetti because of his background and because of the work he had done. The belief would be it would be his word against two dead killers and he would be believed.
He's going to miss the killers.
Which is funny because it's like, oh yeah, she tried it first, I killed her, and then we were on the way, and the other guy tried it, so I killed him too. That's going to sound weird. But with Mickey and Mallory Knox, nothing sounds weird because that is what Mickey and Mallory would do.
I would. I'd believe it.
It's exactly what they do. Yeah. And what would be worse was if along the way, Mickey suddenly finds out that they blew the head off of fucking Mallory.
Then you're all
in
fucked.
which case, he's got nothing left to live for.
Yeah. He's going down fucking swinging. So the decision to move the pair was made quickly and was to be done before too many officials could kick up a stink. And lucky for us, gotcha journalist Wayne Gale got word of it from an inside source and insisted on getting an interview with Mickey Knox before his transfer for his side of the story. Otherwise, Gale would make noise and stop the move of the Knoxes using connections and shit tons of red tape.
Yeah, and a gotcha journalism, or we call him a gotcha journalist. Gotcha journalism was a big thing in the 90s. Again, is what we're talking about. It's like what we were saying about with Vince McMahon, where every time Vince McMahon went in to do an interview, he'd go in there to do an interview about WWE, and suddenly it would be like, so how about those steroids, huh? And he'd be like, fuck. Okay. Or in this case, in modern day time, it's like, I'm here to talk about the latest pay-per-view. Yeah, that's all well and good. That match looks good. So how about you shitting on people?
Mm-hmm.
You know? Yeah. During threesomes. What's that about? Shit. So that's kind of what gotcha journalism is. It's where you're brought in to be talked to about one thing, and next thing the journalist will flip the topic on you to something that makes you feel uncomfortable that you don't want to talk about, but no, you're live on television, you're in a space where
that would make him feel uncomfortable.
Yeah, and if you try and back out of it, no, you look worse, so you're forced to discuss what you don't want to discuss. So this interview was going to happen in the prison. Mm-hmm. While they prepared Mallory to be taken away, Mickey was brought into a small kitchen kind of room. It was the only room where they could be far enough away from the other inmates so there wouldn't be much noise. It was nice and small and compact. The acoustics were good in there. You see, Wayne didn't work like these big companies. He wasn't going to come in with like a big lighting rig and fucking 20 people running around doing makeup and all this stuff. He liked to work small. He had 3 people working for him.
Okay.
One girl, it was a nickname she had too. Give me 2 seconds and I'll find it. She has no tongue. She couldn't talk. But she was his PA. She used to help him. And then there was, he'll mention their names later, but I think it was Steve and Phil. They were the sound and camera guys. But that's all he had. That's all he wanted. He wanted it to be very raw, very thing. And he felt as well that by having too many people in the room, it would be hard to get Mickey to relax. Less people around, easier to get Mickey to talk. So much so that he had to convince the warden to downplay. Because the warden, knowing who Mickey Knox was, had somewhere between 9 to 12 armed guards inside this small room with him, like surrounding the walls. So that if anything happened, they were ready to just shoot Mickey down. Wayne talked him down to 4, which was a lot of talking.
Yeah,
took a lot to get him to do that, but they got him to. That was the conditions. The 4 men had to stay there. He wanted none. He thought he could handle it on his own, but the warden was very much, if I leave you here on your own with Mickey fucking Knox, all we're gonna have is a snuff video of you getting fucking murdered, not an interview.
Do you think that Mickey would have do you know, like not wanting that many people there, do you think that he would have talked more wanting to show off, or do you personally think that, like, do you know, that Wayne was right, that like, right, we only need a small team because it's not going to be comfortable? Do you think that he enjoyed the bravado
by the
of,
end?
like,
We'll see by the end of this. Well, he knew he was on live TV in front of millions of people.
I know, but you know as well as I know how what it's different about playing off an audience right in front of you, sitting in front of you, like.
This guy was charismatic enough that it wouldn't have mattered if it was 1 or 1,000 people in front of him.
Narcissistic to the extent of,
like I pointed out earlier with the pencil, this guy doesn't need very much to get himself out of a position he's in. He's the MacGyver of murderers. So I would say the more people that are in the room, the more weapons that are sitting there for him to grab. And more hostages for him to hold on to.
Okay.
The less people in the room, the easier it is to grab a hostage. I don't think there's any safe way of being around Mickey Knox. And they kept that. And another thing Wayne insisted on was the cuffs and the everything coming off. So he had no shackles on.
I understand that.
He could move freely around the room if he wanted to. They bought him donuts and coffee and Coke, cans of Coke, because he hadn't had any of this stuff in over a year and a half. He's in prison about a year and a half at this point. Hasn't seen Mallory in about a year and a half at this point. So they're trying to keep him happy and they're trying to get it set up. So what we're going to do next, I wanted to play the tape of the interview. Copyright laws say I'm not allowed. So we're going to have to read that too. Okay. I forgot to color code it though. So you just read Wayne and I'll read Mickey again, I suppose.
Perfect.
We will be stopping in between some bits here because I don't have the whole transcript here and there's other stuff he said that I want to talk about. Yeah. But I said earlier on that when it came to the story of Mickey and Mallory starting their killing spree with her parents, that there was a start to this story that I had to tell later and it would move on to him buying that first gun and it moving on, and it's going to come in this interview. So let's get cracking with this interview. So you're going to be Wayne, I'm going to be Mickey again.
Yes. So we'll get going and see what goes on in the mind of a psychopathic killer.
Let's go for it.
So Mickey, tell us what you do for fun.
Aside from the obvious?
Yes, aside from the obvious.
Okay. Let me see now. What do I do for fun? Has anybody got a smoke? You guys are driving me crazy with your cigarettes. Sorry out there in TV land. I'm just sitting here looking at these deputies smoking up a storm and it's really doing it to me. Much obliged. Someone handed him a cigarette. What do I do for fun? Do you know what I do for fun? What do I do for fun?
What you did for fun, for starters?
What I did for fun, for starters? Well, something I used to do always was a lot of fun. Nah, scratch that. Let me think of something else. In fact, why don't we come back to that question? Ask me something else.
Do you miss Mallory?
Of course I miss Mallory. She's my wife. Haven't seen her in a long time.
Then was it worth it?
Was what worth it?
Was massacring all those people worth being separated from your wife for the rest of your life?
What a stupid question.
No, Mickey. I can't let you get away with that shit. Answer the question. Was it worth it? You haven't seen, heard, or smelled Mallory in a year. Was it worth it?
Was an instant of purity worth a lifetime lie? Yeah, it was.
Excuse me. Did you say an instant of purity? What was the instant of purity? The bodies you left behind on your bloody trail?
That's only part of it. I mean, it's a big, big, big part of it. But it's only the chorus. It's not the whole song.
Please explain to me, Mickey. Where's the purity that you couldn't live without in 5-year-old Danny Hillhouse's blown off head? Where's the purity in 48 people who are no longer on this planet because they met you and Mallory? What's so fucking pure about that? You just said an instant of purity was preferable to a lifetime lie. I don't understand. What's so pure about 48 dead bodies?
You never understand. Me and you, Wayne, we're not even the same species. I used to be you, then I evolved. From where you're standing, you're a man. From where I'm standing, you're an ape. I'm here, I'm right here, and yours somewhere else, man. You say, why? I say, why not?
Tell me about the purity.
It's not that easy, Wayne. Donuts and smokes will only get you so far. You're going to have to do your job.
Okay, I'll buy that. We'll move on and come back later.
Sure we will.
Describe Mallory.
Describe Mallory. Okay. She's pretty. She's got blonde hair, 2 eyes, 2 feet, 2 hands, 10 fingers.
Don't play dumb with me, Mickey. You know what I mean. Describe Mallory. What's up here? What's in here?
That's indescribable.
Well, riddle me this, Batman. How do you feel about the fact that you're never going to see Mallory again?
Says who?
Says the United States of America.
And when have they ever been right?
At this point, we sort of got Mickey's origin story, or at least how he found himself holding a shotgun for the first time.
Okay. So one night, I was asleep and a noise wakes me up. I thought, oh shit, somebody's broken in. I didn't own a gun, so I go in the living room with a fucking umbrella, okay? It turned out to be nothing. God made the noise, who knows? But I came to the decision I needed a gun. So the next day I started off early for work and I'm going to stop by a gun shop and I pick up a little home protection. Walked into the place and had never seen so many guns in my life. So I'm looking around and this really nice sales guy comes up to me. His name was Warren. I'll never forget that name. He was really nice. Anyway, Warren showed me all these different models of guns, magnums, automatics, pistols, Walters, and I asked to see a shotgun. He brings me a Mossberg pump action shotgun. As soon as I held that baby in my hands, I knew what I was going to do. It felt so good. Felt like it was a part of me. They had a mirror in the store. I looked at myself holding it and it looked so fucking good. I immediately bought it. Bought a bunch of boxes of ammo, turned my car around, drove to Mallory's house. We took care of Mallory's parents, packed up the car, and we were off. Everybody thought I was going crazy. The cops, my mom, everybody. But you see, they all missed the point of the story. I wasn't crazy. But when I was holding that shotgun, it all became clear. I realized for the first time my one true calling in life. I'm a natural born killer.
So he was a bit crazy.
Well, that was the line that would kick it all off. I mean, that's the line that they'd become known as the Natural Born Killers. You know, Mickey and Mallory Knox. It's the one that the movie would be named after. It's the one the books would be named after. You know, Mickey and Mallory Knox were the Natural Born Killers. They're fucking right. It's catchy. Why do you think I fucking call us the Natural Born Killers? I was like, this is awesome. You think of MBK, you think of two psychopaths who don't give a shit who they hurt. That's why we picked it as a wrestling name.
So it just seemed like Mickey was relaxing and letting it all flow free when the interview was interrupted by trouble deeper in the prison. Turns out the interview, which was running live, was being watched by the rest of the prison population, and the Natural Born Killer story was enough to work the inmates into a frenzy. And the most violent riot in American history erupted.
This always confused me. I didn't think they were allowed to watch violent stuff in prison.
Neither did I.
Or criminal-related stuff in prison. But again, I keep going back to it in the show with wrestling, I learned that Booker T, MVP, and Jacob Fatu all decided to become wrestlers while watching wrestling on TV in prison. I think that's the last thing you'd have on in prison.
It's a sport. I would assume they're allowed to watch boxing as a sport as well.
But I would assume that that's the one thing I would have thought, no way, that would work them up into a frenzy. They'd only be boxing each other. When I was a child and we watched wrestling, we went out and we wrestled each other directly after the show.
Surely.
A lot of these people in prison are just man children.
Yeah, but surely there's boxing clubs in prison.
There is, but that's different. That's disciplined. That's controlled.
Yeah. So why shouldn't you be allowed to watch it? Like, if because I mean, like, these boxers, I mean, surely...
Because it will be probably a privilege allowed to people in a boxing club, not allowed to the general population, or so I would think. Because Jacob Fatu said it himself. He said, like, I'm here, I'm 18 years of age, I'm sitting in prison, I know what way my life is going, and I look up at the television inside in a rec room, and I see my two cousins, the Usos, walking on, and I think, I could be doing that.
Yeah.
I mean... he wasn't wrong. The family he was coming from, he was guaranteed to do it. But that's why it took him so long to get to the WWE. Because his criminal record. And the fact that unlike Booker T and MVP, who came out of jail, different men and settled down, apparently Jacob Fatou is not a man to be fucked with.
Say he's not a man to be fucked.
In real,
Right.
you should see backstage stuff of him though. He is a big man child.
Yeah.
There was a clip of him going around of him meeting the Boogeyman, the wrestler, and
Yeah.
he is jumping up and down like a child. He's holding his phone in front of the Boogeyman, getting him to do the "I'm the Boogeyman" thing. And when he does it for him, he starts jumping up and down and like, yeah, that was awesome. That was awesome. Like he's absolutely. He just. Do you know how you
That's
talk
lovely,
about like
though.
Samoa Joe looking like just this big happy?
I love Samoa Joe.
Jacob looks like that, except with the mentality of a child. You know?
Okay. Yeah.
But he could kill you just as fucking quick.
Okay.
The riot kicks off almost instantly after he says this Natural Born Killer line.
Okay.
And puts an end to the interview because obviously word goes through the radio straight away. We have a fucking huge problem at the other end of the prison.
Mm-hmm.
And I mean, they had a huge problem. When I say this is the worst, when you say this is the worst prison riot in American history, I mean, we are talking high into double digits of deaths.
Okay.
Prisoners, prison officers, the warden himself was decapitated. They walked around with his head in a stick.
Jesus Christ.
Yeah, there was bodies everywhere. That prison was shut the fuck down afterwards.
Yeah, well, I'd assume so.
But Mickey decided to take advantage of this little stall in the interview and this distraction happening at the other end of the prison. Like I said, this is a man who cannot be left with any opening. And he starts to, well, the way they described it said he started to walk around. He stands up and goes to pick up another donut. Donuts are in a box on the table. And he starts walking around. But one witness says they witnessed him, that he was staring at one of the prison officers.
Okay.
And it looked like a light went off in his head.
Okay.
And because of what he does next, they thought the light to go off in his head was him thinking of this joke. So he starts walking around telling this joke, and it's about a Little Johnny joke is what they're called. We've heard some before. And Little Johnny, this is the joke basically. Little Johnny is, and you're not going to get it over the podcast. You're going to have to get the video cast for this part because it's a visual joke for most part of it, because Little Johnny is deaf and Little Johnny's sister wants to go on a date. And Little Johnny's mom says you can go on a date to the cinema, but you got to bring the kid with you. Okay. Little Johnny with you. So Little Johnny goes with his mom or with the sister to the date. And when he comes home, the mother goes straight to Little Johnny and goes, so what happened on the date? And Little Johnny mimes kissing. She goes, so she was kissing. And Little Johnny's nodding, yes. And then she goes, what else happened? And then Little Johnny starts to mime squeezing breasts. And she's like, oh, he felt her up. And you're like, what else happened? And then Little Johnny starts miming, taking off clothes. He goes, they got naked. And then the mother says, Little Johnny, what else did they do? And then Little Johnny starts making a trusting movement like they're having sex. She's like, they had sex. What were you doing this whole time? And then Little Johnny makes a masturbation fucking, and everybody's laughing. As everybody laughs, Mickey grabs the shotgun off one of the officers that he had been eyeing up, smacks him with the butt in the face, gets everybody to lie down on the ground, starts shooting a bunch of people, kills the cameraman, kills a few, most of the correctional officers inside in the room, leaving one correctional officer alive. Scagnetti was still alive. The sound guy was still alive. Wayne was still alive, and Wayne's assistant was still alive.
Okay.
At this point.
Okay.
And Mickey takes complete control of the situation. Mickey had picked up from Scagnetti talking in the room that Mallory was in the building. He, after beating the living piss out of Scagnetti, tells him, you're going to direct me to Mallory. Yeah. And he's like, how are we going to get through all the riot? We're going to kill you. He's like, oh, I'm using you as a human shield. So them as a little caravan of people start making their way to Mallory's cell. Okay. Scagnetti's shitting his pants at this stage. Yeah. And I'll tell you why. I said earlier on that Scagnetti was sent to prepare Mallory for transfer. At this point, when Scagnetti gets back to the interview room before Mickey takes control of it, he has a broken nose. He asked the prison officers to leave him alone in the room with Mallory, saying that he could control it. Look at all the killers he's brought in, and that he could control the situation. Okay. When they came back in, he was topless, with a broken nose, and she was beating the ever-living shit out of him on the ground. He then once they came in and started beating her with nightsticks and the butts of their shotgun, he got up, beat her up a little bit, and started to spray her all over her body with pepper spray. In the face, all over her body. I thought it only affected your eyes, but apparently it burns everywhere. So covered her. So Mickey has him at gunpoint on his way to Mallory's cell, who is about to fucking rat this guy in a big fucking way as soon as he walks through the door. So
I just feel it's very wimpy for a man to use pepper spray on a woman. Extremely fucking wimpy, like.
Well, that was after he'd beaten her up a bit. This was just him torturing.
But still not. The beating up still isn't okay.
It was
but
a torture. Yeah, it was just him fucking trying to hurt her. Obviously, you can imagine when they get to the cell, the reunion between Mickey and Mallory. You know, they haven't seen each other in a year and a half. These are two people who are completely devoted to each other. They just locked onto each other.
Okay.
Unfortunately, giving Scagnetti a chance to try and regain control over the situation. He managed to grab a side piece from a downed police officer, correctional officer in the room, and he was on the ground pointing the gun at Mickey. Mickey was on the floor pointing the shotgun right back at him.
Okay.
Mickey points out that his shotgun will blast a fucking hole through him, whereas his little pistol will only injure him. Scagnetti responded back with, "I've never injured anything in my life. I have you dead in my fucking sights." So they stayed in a bit of a Mexican standoff for a minute or so.
Yeah.
And I believe it might have been Wayne Gale that saved the situation. Either way. It wasn't. Mallory was down behind him. When he took control of the situation, he had actually knocked Mallory. He didn't notice Mallory getting back up, and she attacked him from behind and started to stab him in the throat repeatedly. He stumbled backwards, and then Mickey and Mallory blew him the fuck away. Yes. And decided it was time to try and get the fuck out of there. Mallory at the time was going for the original plan. She was like, "Let's go Bonnie and Clyde. Let's go out and hail the bullets. We'll just start running out of here, firing, and let them take us out as we go. And we'll take as many of these bastards with us as we can."
Okay.
Mickey said that will be plan B if plan A doesn't work.
Okay.
So they got to this point in the prison where they were nearing the exit, but they had to go down a stairwell to get to the main door.
Yeah.
At the end of the stairwell was the warden with a unit of correctional officers in riot gear. Now, the warden, this is before the warden had his head taken off. Just before the warden had his head taken off. So they had, at this point, since they killed Scagnetti, they had the cameraman had been shot in the meantime in that last shoot up. So at this point, Wayne has the camera.
Okay.
They don't. Sorry. They had one other correctional officer. They strapped the camera to the correctional officer. They held Wayne and the correctional officer as human shields, walked out in front of the warden to see what the situation was. He told them they had 30 seconds to drop everything and come down, or they were going to come up shooting. They went, Mickey and Mallory bring the two back. They explained the situation to Sheriff Duncan Homolka, who was their other hostage, and to Wayne, and tell him what they're to say as they go out. They're going to be using them as human shields, but Mickey had very specific words for both of them to say as they were going out, because it was going to be on camera and the feed was still going live to the newsroom.
Okay.
Mickey informed Wayne that the entire time they were walking down the stairs all the way out the front door, he was to continuously repeat, "My name is Wayne Gale. I am the star of American Maniacs, watched by 40 million people every week. I am a respected journalist, winner of a Golden Globe, the Edward R. Murrow Award, among others. If anybody puts me in danger, my network will sue the Los Angeles County Sheriff's Department. My estate will sue every officer personally who fires. The network law firm is Rowland, Davis, and Sinclair." Sheriff Duncan Homolka was told to repeat the following: "I am a husband with 2 children. I do not want to die." Over and over and over and over and over again. Yikes. That got them out the door and into Wayne's news van. Unfortunately, in the ongoing and the
kerfuffle?
Not the kerfuffle, high-speed chase.
Oh, the high-speed chase, okay.
Mallory shot Sheriff Duncan Homolka, the man with the wife and 2 kids, and threw him at the cop car to swerve him off the road and to get them free. Well, to get him free for a period of time, to get him basically to get him into a hiding spot and away from the heat as it stood at that time.
Okay. And Wayne Gale could smell the money and feel the cold, hard gold of the awards pressing against his skin, cooling the burning sensation from the many burns, cuts, gashes and bruises from the previous battle he'd just been in. And he gladly held the camera up and pointed at the Knoxes to get their closing statement for what he deemed the greatest moment in TV history. Little did he know the improvised scene would be his last.
So, I mean, like, they're literally in, like, a wooded area here. It's just the 3 of them. Wayne wants to... Basically, he looks at this as the closing interview for his great fucking episode. He's talking to Mallory, who's talking to him like it is a regular interview. But Mickey is behind Mallory pacing. He's like, "Come on, we gotta go, we gotta hurry this up, hurry this up." So what we're going to do here is I'm going to read a little bit about what was said.
Okay.
Between them. Do you want to do Wayne again, or do you do Mallory?
Is there a girl's part?
There's a good bit of Mallory here. I'll do Wayne. Mickey doesn't have much to say here. You do Mallory. I'll do Wayne and Mickey. We're going to read what we can, what we're not allowed to show. And then we're going to play what happened near the end.
Okay.
It's not easy to listen to.
Okay.
But we're going to stick it in there anyway.
Yes.
Yeah. Okay. I'm just looking here because I think I have some of this written for us to read, but I actually have the writing for it, or the audio for it, so I don't think we actually need this big ass section here. Okay. Yeah. So, yeah, okay. We can crack on from here. I'm sorry, I left a big bit of dead air for a minute there, didn't I? Anyway, all right. So, let's crack on with it. It is Wayne starting things off. Do you want to work us into this here? Yeah. Oh, we've already done this with the final words of Wayne Gale. Yes. Okay. So, this is Wayne Gale. I'm wounded. And my crew, Roger and Scott, I was way off with Steve. And what did I say? Steve and what?
I want to say Pamela, but I know that's not right.
Roger and Scott are dead. This may be out of sync because we are shooting with a wild camera and a standard recorder we found in the van. Mickey Knox's plan worked. We walked out the front door into my news van and made our getaway. When we were followed by patrol cars, Mallory Knox killed Deputy Sheriff Duncan Homolka and tossed his body out the back. Mickey told authorities over my police band that I would surely be next if they didn't give up the pursuit. Why helicopters haven't been deployed, I don't know. My only thought is, it all happened too fast for arrangements to be made. We've just pulled off the side of the road to do this interview. Mickey off screen of the camera screams, "We ain't got all fucking day." Without any further ado, Mickey and Mallory. Mallory, what do you think of Mickey's plan? Did you think it would work?
It wasn't until we got on the ground floor that I totally realized we weren't going to shoot unless we shot first. When I got out of the stairwell, I remember thinking, oh my God, this might just work. But Mickey knew it would work all along. There wasn't any doubt in his mind. It's not like there was and he didn't just show it. He knew it would work.
What do you think then? What did you think then?
I wondered how long it would be before we'd get to be alone together. And I wondered if I could wait that long.
Did you have anything to do with the riot in the laundry room?
Haven't you been listening to a fucking word I said? Oh, I'm sorry. Can I say fucking? I can't. Can I?
Try to keep it to a minimum.
We had nothing to do with that riot. That riot was just, whatchamacallit.
Mickey, divine intervention.
Yeah, what he said. We don't know jack shit about any riot. It happened. It was kismet. We didn't even know those people. How are we supposed to organize a riot when we've been in fucking isolation for the past years? Just bleep out the fox and jack shits. I mean, it's not like we care. If they want to say we masterminded the whole thing, let them. It won't exactly keep us up at night. But you said you wanted the truth, and the truth is we were just lucky. Mickey snapping his finger in the BG.
So that was
Background.
Mickey's. So yeah, and from the background here. Come on, let's hurry this up. So Wayne says, so what now?
Well, now me and Mickey are going to take it easy. Just enjoy each other's company. Stop and smell the roses. Notice the color purple. Stuff like that.
How do you intend to disappear? You're probably the most famous couple in America.
Well, back in slave times, they had a thing called the Underground Railroad. And we got a whole fan club out there just waiting to be conductors. So you kids out there, keep the faith, because Mickey and Mallory will be coming to your town real soon.
Mickey. Okay, that's enough. End of the interview. We gotta move. Wayne. Okay, let's just swing around the film and film myself asking the questions, and then I'll do a little wrap-up. Mickey. Oh, we're gonna do a little wrap-up, all right. But it won't be you staring in the camera looking dumb and acting stupid. Instead, you're going to be staring down the barrels of our shotguns and we're going to be pulling the triggers. Wayne. That's a fucking joke, right? Wait a fucking minute. Mickey. I said I'd give you an interview. Now, unless I'm mistaken, we just did an interview. We did an interview, didn't we?
Looked like an interview to me.
I said we'd give you an interview. I never said we wouldn't kill you. Wayne. Wait, I don't know. But I kind of felt during this whole escape, we kind of bonded, developed between the three of us. We're kind of in this together, don't you think? Mickey. Nah, not really. Wayne. Don't touch those triggers, please. I think I've already proven that a live Wayne Gale is much better than a dead Wayne Gale. I was your passport out of jail, not Duncan Homolka, but me. No, the next part we're going to play is a little bit of a conversation between Mickey, Mallory, and Wayne, and Wayne's last movement.
But if we let you go, we'd be just like everybody else. Killing you and what you represent is a statement. I'm not 100% sure exactly what it's saying, but, you know, Frankenstein killed Dr. Frankenstein. Wayne, have some dignity.
All right. No, I'm a parasite, so what? All right, life is cruel. No one said it was going to be easy. The day you two killed your ass belonged to us, to the public, to the media. That's how it is, and we are married, eh? Now, the point is, what do we do next? I say we do a Simon Rushdie type thing, okay? Just books, talk shows. You know, we lay low, we jump up, we bob and weave, we get rid of them, we come in, we do Oprah, we do Donahue. I mean, do you have any idea how huge we could be?
Let's make a little music, Colorado.
Wait. Don't Mickey and Mallory always leave somebody alive to tell the tale?
We are your camera.
Okay.
Mickey and Mallory had dreams of retiring from the murder business and living a low-key life with lots of kids, but you live by the sword and you die by the sword. And while their final video appearance shows them walking off like bandits into the sunset, the reality is the couple were found dead only hours later, having bled out from the injuries sustained in the prison escape. They died cuddled into each other, holding hands, with what looked like smug smiles on their blood-drained faces.
Shouldn't we all be so lucky to have a love like Mickey and Mallory?
Minus the murder.
But if you do want more murder, check out our Patreon at the Horrorverse Network for tons more shows covering true crime, serial killers, ghosts, cryptids, history, wrestling, and everything else that catches your attention. That's all there available for $5 a month.
And you can check all that out now with our 7-day free trial. That's Patreon at the Horrorverse Network. And check us out on Instagram at AliveAlivePod and at Amy Rose IAA for news, updates, pics, reels, and more.
We will not be back next week with more tales from the Horrorverse. We will be back with stuff from the tales.
You looked outraged when you said that.
Well, next week we're going to drop these in over the year. We've done one already. Yeah. And they're what we're going to be calling Spotlight on the Horrorverse. No, we're not going to lie to you. Partially, it's give me a week off writing the scripting. Let me prepare for the next script. Because, usually it takes a bit of time to do these. But it's also a chance to highlight stuff that's behind our paywall. And I think, excuse me, last time we did it, the first time we did it with Playing with Bones. We put up the first episode of your Bourbon saga, the Dynasty, and that's still up there. You can listen to it right now for free. We are going to put up an episode of Wrestling with Time next week. Next week is actually going to be completely mostly wrestling related.
It will
We're going to have Mini Monsters on Monday. This Monday, obviously, you've got Mini Monsters with Charles Starkweather. Next week, we're going to do the death of Bruiser Brody, and I'm going to read Mini Monsters this week. We're going to be have the episode on Wrestling with Time coming out on Tuesday. Will be the season finale of that on Patreon. We will then give away the first or second episode free on Wednesday for you to test out, and that'll be dropping right here where you're listening to this episode. Thursday we'll have It's Alive action. I think maybe we'll take another look at stuff like Chris Benoit, maybe some of the subjects from Dark Side of the Ring, some of the darker sides of wrestling, and we can discuss some of them in depth. And then we get back into the Horrorverse headlines, which will be obviously all about funny crimes, movie news, and anything else that catches our interest for that week. But for now, we're out of here. We'll see you all next time. Same Alive. It's Alive podcast. All the guts and gore, none of the guilt. Gotta get the tagline in there. See you all next time. Same Alive time, same Horrorverse channel. Okay, love ya. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.